All right, today's technical session number T-45, talking about data destruction and disposal methods. Once we are done with items or data, we want to be able to make sure that we have safely disposed of these things so that people cannot come behind us and gain access to that data. Just throwing a hard drive in the trash can doesn't necessarily work. There are ways we can try to achieve that data. And given enough time, somebody might be able to crack the encryption even with a TPM module, because if they have the drive, they have unlimited time with it. So better safe than sorry. We want to make sure we get rid of these or destroy these in a proper manner in order to protect ourselves, our customers, our data, what have you. The objectives for this particular technical session are going to be able to explain the purpose of disposing of data. When would this be appropriate? Compare and contrast the following methods of disposing of data: formatting, sanitation, and destruction. And describe common ways to physically destroy data on hard drives. If you're a technician and have a hammer in your toolbox, this would probably be the one time you would use it. All right, why and when to dispose of data? Let's see here. Alan, can you please read for us, sir?
As a faster and a more reliable hard drive, I'm sorry, my voice is a little dry. As faster and more reliable hard drives come out of the market, old hard drives tend to be replaced and thrown away. In other scenarios, desktop computers or laptops get replaced for new ones, and the old PCs are given away to the other people or sent to the trash. On these scenarios, it is important to delete data from the hard drives, and an appropriate data destruction disposal plan should be in place to avoid any potential leak of data. Getting rid of data from magnetic drives is not an easy task when something is deleted in Windows, even after emptying the recycle bin. Sorry. No problem. Data remains in the storage device until new data overrides it or replaces it.
Very good, thank you. So it's not just a quick and easy, I've deleted it, I've put it out of my recycle bin and it's gone. Even formatting a drive does not necessarily get rid of the data. It just marks those spaces available to be written on in the future. So an experienced technician can still retrieve that data at that point and reconstruct your hard drives. So we want to be sure that we are properly disposing of it or getting rid of the data in an efficient manner, but the level to which or the extent to which you would go through to make sure the data is gone or what have you is going to be also partially determined on what's going to be done with those computers going forward. If it is a personal computer and you're giving that computer to your mother or your father, just so they have something that they can email on and check Facebook or whatever, you're not going to go through such extensive means to get rid of data as you would if it was a computer in the research and development division of a manufacturing company and they were recycling the drive, recycling the computers and getting rid of them. Those would be two very different levels of data destruction that you would employ because of a certain level of trust between you and where these drives are going. All right. So you have three main methods by which you can get rid of data or dispose of it. So you have formatting, which basically just states that you're preparing the drive to hold new information. You have sanitation, which involves wiping the data on the drive and actually goes through a process of writing over each individual sector to try to erase the data that was there before. And then you get into destruction, which will render the drive unusable from that point forward. and different methods that we use. They actually have shredders that they use for hard drives. These are really, really big machines. You have electromagnetic degaussing, which works on your, magnetic drives. You have drills and hammer, which mostly effective, I would say. Just drilling a couple holes isn't going to do it because you could do a bit-to-bit transfer and still regain about 90% of the data. So, being cautious with that. Hammer shattering the platter itself, that will get rid of it. Incineration, using fire essentially, and also obtaining certificates of destruction. All right, so you have, is there a question? Oh, all right. So you have two various levels of formatting that that can be employed. You have standard formatting, which can be broken down into a regular format and then quick format. So the standard format, essentially, you use the operate systems format utility. It marks the spaces that are occupied by data as being available, so data can be written to it. And erasing it does not guarantee the information isn't still on the disk and recoverable. Can anybody tell me the difference between a quick format and a regular format? Yes, Alan.
With the quick format, you may not have like the most recent update if you do like a standard format or a regular format.
It's a good guess. Good guess. Not quite.
Does one format all of it and one format only some?
No, both actually do format all of it. So if you're doing a format, it's going to mark all that data available for, but again, good guess.
I think that is about the flag of the part of the disk that are not allowed to be written, and they do it in different ways.
They do it in different ways, but regular formatting does something extra.
I had this number.
Chris.
Is it how many times it goes over the disk?
I know, you're knocking on the door of something else.
I've had those numbers since 2012.
But that is also a very good guess. So quick formatting basically just goes across and said everything is open and available to be written to. Regular format goes through as well, tests all the sectors to see if they're in good shape, if they're not, bad sectors, whatever, or they're, and so if there are bad sectors that cannot receive data or areas that are failing on the drive, it will mark those so that you don't write to those areas. A quick format just basically goes over and goes, yep, all of it's available to be written on. Whereas more steps are taken in the regular format process. So if it's a brand new computer, the drive's solid, everything's good, quick format's probably your best option. Older computer, it's had a lot of use, it's getting towards the end of its life cycle, you might do regular format to ensure that you're only writing to good sectors on the drive. And then next, you have what's considered low-level formatting. Most of the time, like 99% of the time, this is only handled at factories. And it can be used to completely wipe the drive clean as if it is a fully refurbished, fresh drive to write on. Before the drive can ever be partitioned on the first run, it has to have a full low-level format. And this does not depend, any operating system can do this. I had a member of my cohort who actually could do low-level formatting, but he actually spent a lot of his time working on servers and things like that. So he actually had the capability to do this. And he was just like, it's something that if you mess it up, you scrap the drives. They're done at that point. But you know, it was something that he would employ whenever like you had extremely sensitive information that you wanted to be sure it was gone. You would do a full sanitation and then a low level format. Next, sanitation. Now this is probably where Chris was thinking, where you have overwriting. Now, what's happening is the drive is essentially overwriting every sector on the drive with randomly ones or zeros. And depending on the type of software you will use, would determine the number of times it would do passes over the drives. And I think like government forensics can basically recover anything short of like 10 passes or something along those lines. So a lot of these will go way above and beyond that and do like 32 passes or something like that. It takes a long time for that operation to complete, but once it's done, there is no recovering anything off of the drives. Example of that would be D-Band, which Dark's Boot and Nuke. There's Bleach Bit, and there's a couple others that are out there. I mean, there's one that comes on like a red thumb drive with like a radioactive symbol on it. Basically, if you plug that key into your drive, you're not getting anything out of that drive ever again. So they have them available. They have free tools that'll do it. But that's essentially what it's doing, is just doing multiple passes, rewriting random ones and zeros to make any data or information unrecoverable. Next, drive wipe. Now, they have specialized utilities that can do this as well. It is similar to overriding. If you are in a situation where you have critical information on a drive and you want to make sure to know, like with no doubt whatsoever, that it can't be recovered, you can do sanitation, but it's also recommended to do destruction after that. So you sanitize it, then destroy it. And that just kind of double covers you, make sure the data that you have is gone. Now, a drive wipe, that's pretty good if you're going to have the hardware be recycled and reused. If it does not have excessively sensitive information on it, you can do a heavy overwrite or a drive wipe and then set the drives up for recycle. They can reclaim a lot of minerals. Sometimes the computers themselves can be repurposed. Many cities have electronics recycle facilities there, which if you want, you can pick up computers on the cheap there, practice taking them apart, working on them, things like that. One of the people in my previous cohort actually worked at the Electronics Recycle Center and used to get a lot of components for their computers for very inexpensive, and they built several gaming PCs just from parts that they scrapped or they scavenged or salvaged at the Electronics Recycle Centers. So, you know, there is use for that as well. But as far as hard drives go, you want to make sure you do a full sanitation and make sure that you do not have sensitive data on there and that you don't want getting out. Questions so far? Yes, Rienzi.
Okay, so that doesn't sound like a wipe at all. Like, doesn't sound like it's taking the data off of the disk at all.
What do you mean?
This drive wipe. Is that okay? I don't know if I'm being unclear, but what I'm saying is it doesn't sound like it's taking any data off a disk. It's just, well, you drop it off somewhere. And,
No. What I'm saying is if you wanted to do a recycle, like to recycle the drives or have the drives repurposed, you could do a drive wipe or an overwrite. And that would be a way you could do it and then recycle it. So you wouldn't take your drive with all the information you have on it and just hand it over to a recycle center. they may say, yeah, sure, we'll run a wipe on it before we do anything with it. But what do they do before they run that wipe? I'm not 100% trusting person myself. I would rather act as if. So I would make sure that that data is either wiped off the drive using a drive wipe program. I think they have one that's called active kill disk or hard disk eraser. It's a little bit more in depth than a factory reset for phones, because even when you do the factory reset, the data is still on that phone that you can retrieve it. So if somebody knows what they're doing, they still have the ability to get some of that information. But so active kill disk would be one for drive wiping. That's a program you could use. And then you have DBAN here for overwrite. Here, pause it real quick. On to the fun part, physical destruction. Now, when we get into physical destruction, the main goal is to render that component no longer usable in any way, shape, or form. While it's mostly focused on hard drives, it could be other forms of media as well, flash drives, because some people think, like, oh, the flash drive just isn't working, well, let's go ahead and throw it away. Some people may still have the ability to retrieve data on these flash drives. Some people make money just doing that and selling that data. Also CDs and DVDs, so optical media. Really old, floppy disks, zip drives, tape drives, all that kind of stuff. Store anything that can store information. You want to make sure it is properly disposed of when you get rid of it. So for hard drives and stuff like that, they have something called an industrial size shredder that you could throw full-fledged hard drives, computers, all that kind of stuff in there, and it chomps it up into tiny bits. These are rather impressive. If you're, thinking, hey, why doesn't my company own one of these? They cost somewhere between $20,000 to $40,000 for a low-end one. And once you put a drive through there is no recovering it. Next, we have electromagnetic degaussing, which is essentially using very, very powerful magnets to erase all data on magnetic drives. This does not work on optical media, obviously, but with regards to magnetic hard drives, this is a very, very effective way of destroying any data residing on the medium. Next, the all fun drill and hammer. Drill many holes in the drive. The drive may not be used under regular circumstances, but there are ways they can still retrieve information off the platters in a forensic sense. So that doesn't completely do it. So you may want to follow up with a hammer to completely shatter the drives. Now, if you have hundreds of drives that you need to destroy for your company because they're replacing, hundreds of computers, just kind of upgrading everything, but they want to make sure the data has been sufficiently destroyed. It may seem like a lot of fun to, go to town with a sledgehammer on 100, plus drives. One, that's going to take a lot of time, and two, it'll get old really fast. Maybe for like 2 or 3 drives, it works out fine. But when you're talking about a high level amount of drives, they have companies that are specifically purposed with destroying hard drives. And the wonderful thing about it is they will give you a certificate of destruction. So if you are audited in the future and they say, hey, what happened to all these hard drives that you decommissioned that had been used previously in research and development, in accounting, or at the hospital, what have you, there was tons of sensitive information on it. What did you do with them? So in that instance, you would need to provide a certificate of destruction showing that you had them properly disposed of, and it is not like these drives are out there floating around where people can reclaim data. So, and in some cases, even if you have two or
phone call.
do what?
Tajmer.
Oh. All right, so even if it's just a couple drives, if it's extremely sensitive information on there, you still may need that certificate of destruction just for auditing purposes, depending on the level of sensitive data you're dealing with. Like companies like Raytheon and Boeing and stuff like that, they have lots of regulations as to, you know, how they're supposed to manage their data. And so any drives that they get rid of has to go through a process like this and utilize what's considered a secure foundry or very, very secure vetted companies to come in and take care of that data. Questions so far? All right, incineration. Pretty straightforward one. You put it in a very, 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 very hot oven and you turn the drives into molten medium. So at that point, they can't really be used and you're pretty good at that point. But even so, again, you may require certificate of destruction. I think they also do chemical wiping where they'll use, you know, strong chemicals to actually like strip the coatings off of the platters themselves so that nothing can be recovered it that way as well. I'm not so sure on the environmental friendliness of that particular method, but I think that is also another method that is employed. All right. Haven't gone to the sticks in a while here. Let's see what we got here. TK. Can you read for us, please?
Mark is a senior in college and is graduating in June. His new job will be buying him a brand new laptop. He is trying to sell his current laptop to someone at his college to make a little extra cash upon graduation. Which data destruction method should he use?
All right. Thoughts? Go ahead and lead in with that one, TK.
Is it will he use some type of formatting?
Tell me. So what are the three main methods we could use for data destruction? You already mentioned one, formatting. What's the second one?
Magnetic.
Sanitation.
There's sanitation. What's the third one?
Destruction.
Physical destruction. So based off of this scenario, which one of the methods do you think we would employ?
Sanitation.
Okay, why?
Because he want to wipe his he'll want to wipe his drives before he sell the laptop, right?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the laptop he used for college. So how sensitive do you think the data is that is on there?
Oh. Well, I guess it wouldn't be as sensitive.
Okay. So like low to moderate, right?
Yeah.
What about the trust factor between him and who he's passing it to?
I mean, he wouldn't know the person, I presume, so there is no trust, right?
But it's like a student at the school that he went to, right? So you're not necessarily thinking malicious intent.
Mm.
So it's low to moderate trust, low to moderate risk. So yeah, sanitation would probably be your best option at that point. So I mean, you got, rid of, the majority of the data. You've probably overwritten it a couple dozen times, given them pretty much a clean slate computer at that point. And then, but it's not so paranoid that you're going to try to sell a computer without a hard drive. You're going to put the hard drive through a shredder and then sell them a computer on top of that, because it's not that level of sensitivity. But if the trust factor isn't high enough, where you would just say, just format it. Right? So we got to read into it just a little bit. And then and with regards to stuff like this, it starts to get a little bit gray. But very good, TK. Thank you. Next. Luis.
Scenario 2. A Fortune 500 retailer required certified secure destruction of over 1,000 hard drives, the removal and recycling of 350 PCs. All work had to be certified with complete accountability and auditing trails. Which data destruction should he use? Let's see. So it's asking me, let's see. He needs to remove and recycle 350 PCs. I mean, if it has a lot of sensitive information there, and if it's from a retailer, it should be destroyed, and it should be a by a drill and a hammer.
For 1,000 hard drives?
I mean, yeah, that is gonna be stressful, man.
Incineration.
Incineration would be an option on that. Shredder. There's one more.
Certificate of destruction.
Yeah, we do want the certificate of destruction, but what would be
Electromagnetic.
there we go, degaussing. So
Degaussing.
shredder, incinerator, or degaussing would be all appropriate methods for getting rid of this particular drive and acquiring certificates of destruction for auditing purposes, because we may have clientele, account numbers, personal information. We may have marketing strategies. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that could be on those drives that you would want to make sure you effectively get rid of that data. So very good. Yes, Humberto, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I'm good.
All right. Next, scenario number 3. Justin.
Hold on. You are giving your computer to your parents. Which data destruction method should you use? I'm gonna honestly need some help with this guy from the class.
What are the 3 ways we can dispose of data? 3 main ways.
I mean, you can, of course, erase it. You can clear the hard drive.
So our 3 overarching groups, we have what? Formatting. We have sanitation, which is overriding and drive wiping. Then we have physical destruction. Which method would we use if we're giving our computer to our parents?
I would say overwriting.
Overriding?
Yeah.
You might go that route. What level of trust do you have with your parents?
Mine's is low. I can't speak for everybody else. So I just, me and mom do.
In that case, yeah, I would say overriding would probably be your best option. If you have a low level of trust, okay. That's a fair point, Justin. I was going to ask that question. So,
like, but I mean, some people in the class are saying format. But I honestly, I haven't really had a chance to tackle this section yet. This is definitely
Okay.
my to-do list.
fair point. See, anybody else? Mark, what would you say? sis?
I would say fairly decent trust with your parents, if not total trust. You'd probably be able to get away with maybe a regular format or maybe a quick format, something along those lines.
Very
Nothing too
good, yeah.
intensive.
Typically speaking, you would have a certain level of moderate to high trust with your family members. You're giving them personal computer, which would, probably have moderate to low risk factors with regards to data security. So a quick level format would be a quick format, or a regular format would be sufficient, likely in this case. And also potentially maybe your parents aren't particularly computer savvy. So you wouldn't necessarily need to worry about them going in and digging for data. Now, if they spend a lifetime stealing people's identities and, wrote the book on hacking and stuff like that, you may consider data destruction. Just be like, here is a shell, you can put a hard drive in, but generally speaking, that'd probably be where we are. Let's see here. When and why would you suggest to a client that they bring in a third party rather than doing it in-house company to destroy data? Janina.
When it's a large amount of computers,
It's a good one. Like it. Alan?
I was gonna say because people don't have like the tools to kind of to use certain levels of destruction, like the electromagnetic one.
Mm-hmm. Tools. I have hammers. I can do a lot with a 20-pound sledge. I might be really tired afterwards. Jimmy.
When it's maybe a large number of computers, but also highly sensitive data.
Highly
that needs
sensitive
to be
data.
certified.
Why would we want certified?
If you're audited at a later time, you want to have a track record of where that went.
Very good.
So you're not like liable for it.
Excellent. Excellent. Getting a very complete picture on this. Are there any other additions we want to make to that? I like it. So if you have a large number of computers you need to take care of, it's worthwhile bringing in a third party because it's, again, though it may be fun, destroying things with a hammer for a while, it's very cathartic. It also takes time when you could be doing other things. Also, the sensitivity of the data that you're utilizing, and possibly for auditing purposes, you may need certificates of destruction in order to verify that you properly disposed of the data itself. So very good. I like that. Next. Real quick. And Tajma, what does a third-party company provide its clients to confirm their data has been disposed of correctly?
Not so sure about that one.
Want to phone a friend?
Yes. TK.
All right, TK.
Certificate of destruction.
Yes, ma'am. Excellent. Perfect. So the documentation that has basically lets you know that everything has been disposed of properly, the certificate of destruction. Test question alert. You will hear about that one again. And TJ, what does a degausser use to render drive electronics unusable?
Is it magnets?
Yes, very powerful magnets. Excellent. Let's see here. Evan, name a way to physically destroy data, please.
Incineration.
Incineration, very good. Kaylin, can you give me another one?
Yeah, I just said them and I forgot them.
So you said incineration for one.
This one I was thinking. I'm not sure.
What would be the most basic way you could destroy a drive?
Smash it.
Smash it with what?
Middle. Hammer.
Hammer. There you go. So hammer and drill. That's two. Very good. Thank you, Ken. Romario, can you give me another one, please?
Shredding.
Shredder. Very good. So we got incinerator, hammer and drill, shredder. Dominic, can you give me one more? I believe it's the last one. Okay, Rienzi?
Are you talking?
Yes. What is the last method of physical destruction we could we have? So we have drill and hammer, shredder, incinerator, and what's the last one?
Degaussing.
Degaussing. Very good. So that would be the four methods you can use to destroy data physically. And the last component that falls under that, certificate of destruction to verify. All right. Chris, name a reason why you would want to wipe a computer clean of data.
Sensitive information.
Sensitive information. So Chris has spent years downloading movies that were already, just getting into the theater. Caught wind that somebody may come looking for it. Needs to get that sensitive information off the drives.
Dang,
True
Chris.
story. Do what?
Hey, Chris, be careful, man. You gotta be careful out there. Always on a portable hard drive, man. Never on the one in the system. Always.
I learned my lesson.
Thank you. Okay.
So, true story. A friend of mine, who shall remain nameless, in high school and college, was quite savvy with computers. Well before people, you saw computers in the majority of households. This person just loved computers, got into the hacking community very early on, and took some preemptive measures, and in the doorway to his room installed over 500 yards of copper wiring going around the whole door frame, and wired it to the outlet next to the door, which was always left on and taped on. If any data needed to transfer, if you ever needed to bring anything to the room or get anything out of the room, it had to pass out the window because it created an electromagnet in the doorway. And one day, some people in suits came to look at his computers, took all of his computers and disks and everything away. And as they escorted it out the door, it erased all the data. So,
very smart man.
Very smart.
Doing quite well for himself now. Had he not done that, he probably would not be doing so well right now. But yeah, true story. Somebody thought ahead, created essentially a degausser in his house so that when information passed through it, it would be destroyed. Next, let's see, this is an entire full drive erase and data removal program. The full drive erase completely overwrites everything that is on the drive. So what was the name of the program we mentioned? Let's see. Pick on Humberto. What was the overwrite program we mentioned? Or name an overwrite program.
No, I pass. I don't remember.
You pass? Okay. Okay, that's fair. Alan?
I remember the guy's name. It was Doric, but I can't remember.
D-Ban.
D-Ban. There you
Oh,
go.
thank you for the clutch.
D-Ban. Very good. All right. Next, let's go ahead and pause it. Any questions with regards to this technical session? Comments, concerns? For phone, you could probably use an overwrite, Janina. I'm sure they make very specific programs just for phones, for something along those lines. Especially like if you're dealing with an Android, and Android essentially operates like just like a normal hard drive. Chris, yes.
Never mind. I just answered my own question.
Love it when that happens. All right. Makes life so much easier. It's kind of like when somebody calls in to fix something like, oh man, it just started working. Oh, perfect. I'll just check that off as yes, I helped. All right. So now we should be able to explain the purpose of disposing of data and when this would be appropriate. Compare and contrast the following methods of disposing data, the three main houses, and which would be formatting, sanitation, and destruction. When would we employ these methods? Depends on the level of sensitivity of the data we're dealing with and the level of trust we have with the person who the computers are going to. So two main factors with regards to which method we would employ. Also, be able to describe common ways we would physically destroy data on hard drives, like incineration, shredding, degaussing, and drill and hammer. With that,